Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're diving into something pretty amazing today. Earth as a complex, adaptive system.
Sounds complicated.
It is, a bit, but fascinating too. We're going to explore how our planet's major systems, the atmosphere, hydrosphere,
Geosphere?
right, geosphere and biosphere, all work together.
Yeah. It's like they're all in a giant dance, constantly interacting and influencing each other. It's what makes Earth so dynamic.
Definitely.
Oh.
Everyone knows about these systems, basically, but how they work together is what's really interesting.
Exactly. It's not a static thing, It's constantly adapting and evolving.
Okay, so we call these complex adaptive systems.
Yeah. Think of it like a city. You've got transportation, energy, communication.
They all got to work together to keep the city running.
Exactly.
All right, so Earth's our city, and those major systems are like the essential services, right?
Perfect analogy.
So let's break down these services. What about the atmosphere?
Yeah. Well, the atmosphere is that invisible layer of air that surrounds our planet. It does a lot, like regulating temperature, distributing water, and even protecting us from all that harmful solar radiation.
So it's like what? The city's climate control, water system, and a shield all at the same time.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, and then there's the hydrosphere.
Right. All the water, oceans, lakes, rivers, even the groundwater.
It's crazy how much water is constantly moving around, right? Driven by the sun and the earth spinning.
You got it. It's like, take the water cycle, for example.
Right.
Evaporation, condensation, precipitation.
Rain, snow, all that.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of how the hydrosphere and the atmosphere are working together. The atmosphere moves the water vapor around like a global highway.
So the atmosphere isn't just air, it's also moving all that water.
You got it. And all this happens on top of the geosphere.
The solid ground.
Yes, everything from the Earth's crust and mantle to the molten core. It's not as still as people think, though.
Yeah, there's always stuff happening underground. Plate tectonics, volcanoes, erosion.
Exactly. It's constantly changing.
So it's like the city's foundation, always under construction.
Great analogy. And then we have the biosphere living on top of all this.
All the living things, plants, animals, the whole deal.
Right. And the crazy thing is, the biosphere doesn't just exist within these other systems. It actively shapes and influences them. For example, there's the exchange of gases between the biosphere and the atmosphere.
Like plants taking in carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen photosynthesis.
Exactly. And animals doing the opposite. Like the people in a city, they can make the air quality better or worse.
So it's a two-way street.
It is. And that exchange is super important to keep the balance of gases in the atmosphere, which of course helps control Earth's temperature.
Wow, so it's all about these relationships between the systems, the feedback loops.
You got it.
That's what makes Earth so complex. And then, of course, there's that mind-blowing Gaia theory.
Right. Gaia theory.
Yeah.
It basically says that Earth is a self-regulating system.
So, like, all life and the non-living stuff work together to keep things livable.
Exactly. It's like Earth is kind of its own living organism.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But how does that actually work?
Well, that's where the feedback loops come in. For example, the sun is actually getting hotter over time. You'd think Earth would just keep getting hotter too. But the theory is that life on Earth has actually helped regulate the temperature.
Really? But how could life change that?
Think about early life forms, way back when. They evolved to absorb carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, and release oxygen.
Ah, so less greenhouse gas, less heat trapped.
Exactly. Like Earth has a built-in thermostat.
And life is controlling it.
That's the idea. Gaia theory says this type of self-regulation happens all over Earth. Atmosphere, hydrosphere, geosphere, biosphere, all working together. Pretty amazing, right? Life adapting and shaping the planet. It makes you wonder if we've underestimated how connected it all is.
Yeah, for sure. But, we've been talking about these big systems, the big picture. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around it sometimes.
Yeah.
Are there any examples of how this all plays out that we see every day?
Oh, absolutely. Think about clouds, for example. They seem pretty simple, right? Just floating around. But they're a really cool example of the atmosphere, hydrosphere, and biosphere all working together to regulate the temperature. Clouds reflect sunlight back into space, so they help keep the planet cool.
Oh, okay. So more clouds, cooler planet.
Well, it's a little more complicated than that, but you're on the right track. See, clouds form because of these tiny particles in the atmosphere called aerosols. And you know where some of those aerosols come from? The biosphere.
Wait, so plants and stuff are releasing things that help make clouds.
Exactly. Another example of how everything is connected. Trees and other plants release gases that can actually help form those tiny particles, cloud condensation nuclei that are needed for clouds to form. Then those clouds go on to reflect sunlight, helping control the temperature. It's a pretty amazing cycle.
Wow, that's crazy. I'll never look at clouds the same way again.
Right. It's not just the weather, it's life and the planet working together. Now, let's switch gears a bit and think about the geosphere and the biosphere. The geosphere, with all its mountains and valleys and coastlines, really determines what kinds of life can live in a place.
Yeah, a couple.
Like, imagine a mountain range, okay? You get this rain shadow effect.
Mhm.
One side of the mountain gets lots of rain, the other side stays dry. That difference in rain creates totally different ecosystems.
Wow, so the shape of the land from all those geological processes determines what can live there.
Exactly. It's like the geosphere is setting the stage for the biosphere. And it's not just about providing a place for life to exist. The geosphere also provides the nutrients that life needs.
Okay, how so?
Think about rocks weathering. That releases minerals into the soil. Plants absorb those minerals and they get passed up the food chain.
Wow, so even rocks are part of the cycle of life.
Exactly. It's this constant interplay between the living and non-living parts of the planet. And that brings us back to this idea of Earth as a self-regulating system, Gaia theory. It's a really cool concept, but scientists still debate how much self-healing power the Earth really has.
Yeah, I can see how that would be controversial. It's nice to think Earth can heal itself, but with all the impact from humans, is that really realistic?
Well, some scientists think Earth's self-regulating mechanisms are strong enough to counteract what humans are doing. They argue that the planet has been through a lot of changes over time, and it's always found a new balance.
So Earth is really good at adapting, always bounces back.
That's one way to think about it. But there are others who are more cautious. They think that even though the Earth is resilient, there might be a limit to how much it can handle. They worry that what humans are doing, especially lately, might be pushing past those limits.
So even if Earth can heal itself, maybe we shouldn't assume it can just fix everything we mess up.
That's the idea. It's like with your own body, You can recover from being sick or stressed sometimes, but if you push yourself too hard for too long, you can really hurt yourself.
That's a good point. It makes you think, if we accept that Earth is this incredibly complex, interconnected system, shouldn't that change how we see our role on the planet?
Absolutely. Understanding Earth as a complex, adaptive system means moving beyond this idea that humans are separate from nature. We're not just here to use up the resources, we're a part of this whole web of life.
So we're not in charge of nature. We're a part of it.
Yeah.
And we're responsible for how we affect it.
Exactly. That's a really important shift in how we think about things. It's crucial if we want to find solutions to the problems facing the environment. And that brings us to the final part of our deep dive today.
So we've been talking about this amazing idea of Earth as a complex, adaptive system. It really makes you think about how connected everything is on this planet.
It really does. And it's not just about understanding how complex it is. It's also about using that knowledge to find ways to solve the environmental problems we face.
That's what I'm really curious about. How do we take all this systems thinking and turn it into action? It's easy to talk about, but what do we actually do?
Well, the first step is understanding that our old ways of solving problems don't always work with complex systems like Earth. We can't just focus on one little problem without thinking about the big picture.
So it's like you can't just fix a leaky faucet without thinking about the whole plumbing system.
Exactly. With Earth, it's all connected. Think about plastic pollution. We clean up the beaches and oceans, which is important, but that's really just dealing with the effects. To really solve the problem, we have to think about the whole life cycle of plastic.
So like how it's made, how people use it, how we get rid of it.
Exactly. We need to reduce single-use plastics, find new sustainable materials, and create better recycling systems. It's not about one perfect solution. It's about looking at the whole problem from all sides.
This reminds me of something we talked about earlier, about Earth being able to self-regulate. So if that's true, does that mean Earth can just heal itself from all the damage we've done?
That's a big question, and scientists are still debating it. We know Earth has bounced back from a lot of changes throughout history.
So it's pretty resilient.
Yeah, but some scientists are worried that humans are changing things too fast, and that maybe Earth can't keep up.
Like, even if it can heal, it might not be able to handle everything we're throwing at it.
Right. It's like pushing your body too far. You might be able to recover from being sick every now and then, but if you're always sick, you might not get better.
That's a good way to put it. So, if we want to help Earth, It sounds like we need to stop thinking we're in charge and start working with nature instead.
I agree. We need to understand that we're part of this incredible system, not separate from it,
Right.
and we need to act accordingly.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of our planet now. It's a lot to think about, but it also gives me hope.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see how much we're learning about Earth, and it makes me hopeful that we can use this knowledge to make things better.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks to everyone for joining us on this deep dive. I hope you learned something new and are feeling inspired to keep exploring the wonders of our planet.